Hello and welcome to this episode of the Green Sofa Dialogues. Joining me today for a very special Green Sofa talk is Dr. Kirsten Westphal. She is the Executive Director of Analysis and Research at the H2Global Foundation. Kirsten, welcome. It's such a joy to have you.
Jennifer, thanks for having me. The pleasure is really on my side.
So I guess I want to dive right in with a question about your title here. You are now at H2 Global. What is H2 Global?
Yeah, H2 Global is a foundation that is devoted to climate and environment protection, but with a very specific focus, H2, on hydrogen, green hydrogen, and climate neutral energy carriers, and really focusing at a market ramp up. Or I would even say at the creation of a market, because we don't have a market yet. And I'm doing analysis and research as I've done for the past 20 years.
I want to talk a little bit about the image behind you. Where are you right now, if I can ask?
Yeah, that's our office in Hamburg.
Okay.
So we are situated on the 3rd floor.
Oh, lovely. It's a beautiful building, I have to say.
It is. Yeah.
Then let's talk a little bit about H2 Global and the work that you're doing in analysis and research in the larger context of the energy transition. And since I'm in Berlin and you're sort of there in Hamburg, let's talk about Germany. Why does Germany, from your perspective at H2 Global, play really a decisive role in the global transition to renewable energy?
That's an excellent question to start with. I think Germany has a front runner role and has always had this role, at least in the rhetorics. But I mean, we started the Energiewende, so it's the country of the Energiewende, and now with the traffic coalition, I don't know whether you say that in English as well. I think it has gotten a new push. And I think we have a very important role to play, also as a liberal market economy, and we might talk about this as well. And also, as I would say, as an industrialized country, with really having the whole, good rumor behind what we can do with machine building. So I think we are in a special role and have the responsibility also to develop technologies and really, put beef to the bones of a front runner's role. I would put it like this.
You mentioned the traffic light coalition. So in German, it's of course the Ampel coalition because it's red and green and yellow, or red and yellow and green from a traffic light. What is it about this coalition that can help keep Germany at the front?
Well, it's basically, I think, it's the slogan that we've seen. Progress is really spot on, and of course, one of the major drivers, and I would say even political motivations that we've seen among the voters, that climate and fighting climate change is really a big issue in the population. So I think, if you look to the coalition agreement, it's very clear that it is really devoted to also address not only progress, but also climate change. And we've seen that, in the Ministry for Economics and Climate Change. Is this the right?
It is.
It is a badge on it. Yeah, of course.
You mentioned liberal market economy. Let's explore that a little bit. Tell me a little bit more.
Well, Germany is now having the presidency of the G7, which is basically the club of the big industrial countries and states. And I think it is very timely to again think how could we arrange new market structures, because I think we are amidst a situation where there's a lot of geoeconomic rivalry, not only around concepts for welfare and wealth, but also around economic systemic models. And I think we have to push that forward. And I think a free market or a liberal market trade is also crucial for the energy transition worldwide. Whether we talk about the diffusion of green technologies, know-how transfer, but also, of course, we have to establish, let's say, new connectivity around around green electrons and molecules. So it's basically, trade is at the heart of international cooperation as well.
Let's talk about trade policy. How can we reconcile? We were speaking earlier. We were talking about climate change sort of being the reason that we're looking at the energy transition, at the Energiewende. How does trade policy fit in? How can we reconcile trade policy with sort of climate priorities and then with energy policy? That's not an easy question, I know.
It's not an easy question. I think I mean, in general, and this is also visible in the has been visible in the election programs and now in the coalition treaty in Germany. It's not a dichotomy between economics or the economy and the ecology, the environment, but we rather have to think together. We have to be, again, much more aware than in the past about the planetary boundaries, I would say. I think that's very tangible now within the pandemic, but also around all the issues of biodiversity or even supply chains. So it's kind of, we have to not lean back because we are really in a crisis, but I think we have to refocus. So, and trade is at the heart of economic issues. And then the other point I wanted to make, and I think it's very important to see, is that we are looking into new green technologies, renewables, but it's not that obvious that we have business cases around that. And hydrogen is a case in point. So we have technologies, we most likely will see demand and we have interest, but it's very, very difficult to bridge the whole value chain and to fill in the bits and pieces that you really need to integrate the value chain. So it's this classical chicken and egg problem. So I think this is where I would say trade plays a very important role in providing business models. So it's kind of a vicious circle. As long as you don't have a business model, you don't have trade. And then as mentioned, I think we need the diffusion of green technologies. That is extremely important. I mean, we won't solve the climate in Europe and in Germany.
Talk more about this diffusion. What do you mean by that?
Technology diffusion is kind of, electrolyzers, solar panels are needed elsewhere around the world, because, I mean, one logical point and one good point to make is, even coming from the geopolitical angle, the new energy world will be very different. We can, I mean, we have access to sun and wind almost everywhere around the planet. So it's quite another texture of and another energy landscape. But in order to ride that, we need the technologies. And this is why I would say the new energy system is much more driven by technologies and access to technologies than by geology with oil and gas, where we had dependencies on specific countries. And I very much like the picture that one colleague had. There is a geopolitics around oil and gas, but not around renewables, because we don't have geopolitics of carrots, and carrots grow everywhere as well. And this is kind of the ideal. We have to come to the carrots in our renewable energy system.
I love that. I love that. It's a fantastic idea. You can sort of see these carrots sprouting. And I'm originally from the United States. I live in Germany, and yes, carrots are quite universal. And I think that's That's your colleague is right on point with that.
Stevens, yeah, from Chatham House, wonderful picture.
It's such a fabulous picture. I want to go back though. You mentioned something that I want to ask you to elaborate on a little bit. You talked about building these bridges. Can you imagine with me what that might look like? How can we build these bridges or start to build the foundations for these bridges? Go ahead.
It very much depends whether we talk about I don't know, electricity trade or hydrogen trade. I mean, if I may start, well, H2Global is really looking into building up the bridges for hydrogen from one country to another, because we have the chicken and egg problem that you need the electrolyzers and the production where you have intense sun radiation or wind. And we are very aware that in Germany, we need very quickly supply of hydrogen in order to keep our industrial welfare and keeping to be an industrialized country. So that's kind of where H2Global, the mechanism, hooks in with building the market structures with kind of an auction-based mechanism. I want to dig deeper into that because this is maybe very much in detail, but what I wanted to say is it's very important to kick off market mechanisms that make it possible that we have kind of a level playing field also to players from, for example, developing countries. That's very important. And of course, you have other dynamics if you look into electricity. What I really like is the approach to think about new connectivities, interconnectivity, because this is indeed, I think, what we need outside of Europe to really think around, look to the neighborhood and think where are good locations, but also where can we really achieve these win partnerships. I know that this is a buzzword, but I think the real challenge right now is to create win-win and to understand what could be win-win partnerships with other countries.
You mentioned new connectivity, and I did want to come back to that. Let's explore this a little bit more. Tell me, do you have examples of what new connectivities could look like?
Yeah, I think it's high voltage direct current lines for green electrons from the neighborhood, from offshore locations. I think this is very important, but they could also be, of course, accompanied by pipelines for hydrogen, climate neutral, green molecules. And also we're talking about connectivity in a broader sense of transport, logistical corridors, which also have to be decarbonized. And I think it's really the bigger picture. And I'm mentioning this bigger picture because sometimes we talk at least around hydrogen as it was only a substitute for oil and gas. It is to a certain extent, depending well on efficiency measures. But I think it's much more, it's part of the industrial revolution because we really have to restructure industries like steel, the energy intensive industry. So this is why I think we have to talk about and look at a broader picture.
You just mentioned logistics. I think one of the biggest challenges that we have ahead of us is this very idea of logistics. Have you thought about how can we create more momentum to sort of move the conversation along when it comes to these sorts of logistics that we're going to have to sort out?
Yeah, that's an excellent question because I think it's not, well, logistics is very much centering around infrastructure. And I think infrastructures are really key to decarbonize our economies and to create a new green energy system. And this is also part of where we have the blind spots and market failures also for the hydrogen, the international hydrogen economy. We have to go through establishing shipping lines, logistical lines, but also repurpose our gas pipeline grids. And I think we've gone quite some way already in the European Union with an integrated network planning. This is kind of a very important piece of the puzzle that I'm seeing, that we have to do an integrated planning of both, or of all the three, if you wish, even maybe of 4 electricity grids, gas grids, hydrogen grids, and even maybe heating grids. So it's I mean, the energy transition is an infrastructure issue. And that's also what I find it very fascinating in my new position at H2Global, that there is really a very close link between, trading mechanisms and the physical links that have to be built in the value chain. And this is why I think I'm so fascinated by the approach, is that we will see at the very beginning real big trade deals. But the real challenge is to create a market and a level playing field, and to start very early with, diversification and redundancies, and to avoid high market barriers for newcomers, like, as I said, developing countries. And this is the fascinating challenge if we build this new energy landscape with infrastructures, with market mechanisms to look into what it does with the international scene, in political relations, but also in trade and economic relations.
When this episode that we're taping today goes live on the internet, it will be in mid-February, which means that the BETD is only a month away from now. As you at H2Global look forward to the next BETD, what do you hope will be some of the accomplishments? Or what do you hope gets talked about most at the next BETD?
I really think that hydrogen is a key issue. Not only for, as we say in Germany, sector coupling or system stability, providing flexibility, but it's also a key link for the international trade system. So I would like to see the countries talking about the rules, standards, certification issues, and the big challenge of creating a level playing field and really kicking off or creating a market that is not yet there, and to quickly ramp up, quickly really start with building up business cases, and of course, electrification and deploy your renewables. But we all know that it's certainly, I know that my answer is too long, but it's of course, it's first energy efficiency and it's renewables, but hydrogen is a very important piece in that as well.
Kirsten, before we wrap things up today, I just wanted to ask, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with us here?
I think we really have to get things right. I joined the new position because I wanted to do my little piece on the energy transition, on the Energiewende. And of course, I hope to meet all in person at the BETD.
Kirsten, that's fantastic. This is the last episode of this season, which means that the next BETD is coming up on March 29th and 30th of 2022. Dr. Kirsten Westphal, I hope that I get to see you as well here in Berlin in March. For everyone else, thanks so much for joining us, and thanks to Dr. Kirsten Westphal, my guest, who is the Executive Director for Analysis and Research at the H2Global Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Ciao.
Ciao.